etc. And in addition to all of the help that is available to us, I like the fact that this evening we take some complex topics and hopefully review it in a way that's easier to understand and put together. So thanks so much, Jill, for the introduction. Professionally, I am a certified financial planner. My practice focuses almost exclusively on assisting families that have a member with special needs with the legal, financial, and government benefit issues that they face as a part of their special needs journey. And throughout the month of February, we'll be addressing different topics. There will be no repeats. So every Tuesday evening, we have new and fresh topics to cover. Later in the month, we have special needs trusts to talk about, and then life care planning as well. And so every Tuesday evening, new and fresh topics to bring to you. So try to participate in as many of the Tuesday evenings as you can. As Jill mentioned, I'll be happy to take questions, and chat is the way that we'll be doing those. And so I will try to keep an eye on that, but while I have my slides up, I'm not sure I'm going to be, yes, I can see the chat. Okay, great. There we go. So I'll try to keep an eye on the chat, and we'll try to answer your questions as they come up. So don't hold them to the end. Oftentimes it's easier to address them while we're on the specific topic because we're going to cover a number of government benefit topics this evening. Also, should mention that I have a team that supports my efforts. We have a parent advocate and a number of other people on our team. There are about 5 of us total. We serve several thousand families throughout the state of Indiana, with an office in Louisville as well. For anyone down in southern Indiana, we have an office in Louisville and assist families down in Kentucky as well. Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna get rolling with government programs and benefits. And I should mention that you will probably get a thank you email from our parent advocate for participating. And I do want to mention that we're making available a free follow-up consultation to all participants in the InSource workshop series. Last but not least, of my 3 children, the youngest is on the autism spectrum. And my passion for special needs is largely born out of my personal journey. My reverence and fondness for InSource goes way back to the days of IEPs with my son, and going through the education process and the training, the support, all of what InSource brings to the table is just invaluable, and I'm very thankful for them, and certainly honored and humbled to partner with them to bring you this education. So thank you to Jill and her associates at InSource. Important disclosure, we're not all things to all people. My team and I, we toil long hours, long days to help as many families as possible, but we have to, of course, include a disclosure. Special care, if you see that noted anywhere, it's a program that's sponsored by my parent company, and we're thankful for the support that they provide. As far as the government benefits we're going to cover this evening, we are going to cover SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and we will be dealing with the different impacts on SSI, getting the benefit to begin with, and then keeping it. How we'll talk a little bit about how the benefit amount is determined, and then what impact does getting a job now that we have a record number of our special needs population in the workplace. How do you apply for, obtain SSI, and maintain your eligibility for SSI while working? In addition to that, we'll be covering SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Insurance or income, and again, the impact of employment, and something called adult child benefits, which has been Social Security's best kept secret over the decades. And now that we have a record number of special needs or special needs people in the workplace, and their life expectancies are soaring. We need to have a constructive conversation about adult child benefits, because most parents assume when they apply for SSI for their child at age 18 that they are on SSI the rest of their lives. And that's not the case. SSI may only last for a few years, or it may last for 20 years. But the period of time that they're on SSI is limited. And so we will talk about what happens when SSI is done, what follows SSI, and how does that work. We will touch on Medicaid, as well as Medicaid waivers and Medicare in summary. And you may think Medicare is odd in a special needs discussion, but our children with special needs in many cases are on Medicare before we are as parents. And so we will talk about what causes our special needs population to become eligible for Medicare, and what does that mean to their Medicaid, their other benefits, etc. So all of that just this evening. So hang in there with me, strap on your roller skates. Here we go. And please do not fail to add questions to the chat so that we can handle them as they come. All right. And by the way, thank you. A thank you from me for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. There are a few things that I do that I enjoy more than to share with other parents what it's taken me close to 30 years to learn. All right, so starting off with SSI. SSI is a non-medical federal income supplement program. It's funded by general tax revenues, not payroll taxes or FICA taxes, that type of thing. It's designed to help the aged, 65 and older, that for whatever reason do not have Social Security retirement benefits, individuals that are blind, and people with disabilities who have little or no income. The disability needs to be expected to last more than 12 months or result in death, meaning it needs to be a serious disability and one that's going to stick around, not your broken arm or your sprained ankle or that type of thing. It provides cash to meet basic needs for food and shelter. And actually, technically, it no longer provides for food. So that was a change Social Security made last October, and into the calculation of household expenses to justify receipt of the SSI benefit, food no longer factors in. This has been a huge shift, and we can answer questions about that. But when you go to put together what a young person with special needs, what their household expenses are, it used to be food and shelter. Now it's simply shelter. Food no longer counts in the equation. And Social Security promoted it as though they were doing us a favor, and it has turned out to be anything but a favor. So, shall we say, a wolf in sheep's clothing. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. But as a result of that change last October, more and more of our 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, meaning the first point at which they are applying for SSI because of a lack of eligibility prior to the age of 18 due to parents' assets and income, are receiving approval, but it's $645 per month, as you see on the screen, $645, as opposed to the maximum benefit of $967. So the decision to not include food has had the effect of relegating the majority of early SSI recipients to a benefit of $645, which is 2/3 of the maximum benefit of $967. Social Security calls it receiving in-kind support and maintenance, otherwise known by the acronym ISM, in-kind support and maintenance. So we're working with families almost on a daily basis as to how to deal with this new reality, how to qualify for the $967, how to get the SSI benefit increased from $645 to $967, etc. And it's more important than ever because with our young people taking on part-time jobs in many cases, the part-time employment can adversely affect SSI, and you certainly want that formula to be reducing from 967, not 645. If their earned income causes a $300 reduction in the SSI benefit, if they're already at 645, they could be down to 300 and something. So we have strategies to help families get the benefit either moved back up, because we're finding in some cases Social Security is actually cutting the benefit because of the food issue that they started last October. So if your child is receiving SSI and they're not receiving the 967, chances are we can help you. In many cases, we can help get the benefit increased up to the maximum benefit level. Last but not least, the ever-present $2,000 resource limit that never changes because it's not indexed to inflation. It's been $2,000 since the 60s. You heard me right, over 60 years ago. Back then, it would buy a car. Today, it's not buying much. So, but nevertheless, no index on that. It was 2000, it is 2000, and will continue to be 2000. Now, there are some things that we're able to do that we were not able to do years ago. One is something called an ABLE account. And tonight's agenda does not include ABLE, but it will include ABLE 2 weeks from tonight. So again, next Tuesday is guardianship alternatives. Let's see here. Guardianship alternatives, actually, I think, and ABLE. So actually, it's a week from tonight. I think that we'll be doing ABLE accounts. So, but we are getting in guardianship, alternatives, ABLE accounts, special needs trusts, life care planning. All of these are upcoming topics or attractions in this 4-part series, basically Tuesdays in the month of February. Okay, I'm frequently asked what counts toward the $2,000 and is that per month, per year, etc. So the 2,000 includes basically any and all accounts that are registered in their name or under their Social Security number. About the only exception are 529 accounts, where the parent actually is the participant and owner, and the child is simply a beneficiary. That assumes that the account is not a UTMA 529, meaning it was not funded with a savings account or monies from the child with special needs. So assuming that it's not, ABLE accounts are okay for benefits, but outside of ABLE, almost everything counts. So we're talking checking, savings, money market accounts, CDs, mutual funds, government bonds, cash under the mattress, you name it, it all counts. And 2,000 is a very limiting number. But again, I think a week from tonight, we're going to talk about ABLE accounts, which is a development just in the last decade. And it does represent a unique opportunity for us as it comes to saving and investing on behalf of our children with special needs. Okay. Nothing in chat yet, but feel free to put a question in there when or if it comes up. All right, at age 18, eligibility for SSI is based on the child's income and assets, no longer the parents. So in many cases, prior to the age of 18, the child, regardless of how significant their disability is simply not eligible for SSI. And the reason is, as a minor, parent and household income and assets factor into the approval process. And in many cases, there's simply too much income or too much money for the child to qualify. But that changes when they turn age 18. So at age 18, a parent can have a 6-figure income, a 7-figure net worth. Both parents can be employed, and the child can receive SSI. Now, this is generally the case with waivers, Medicaid waivers, which we will talk about a little later this evening. But it also applies to SSI once the child turns 18. So what's unique about waivers is from birth on, a parent's assets and income are not a factor for denying eligibility for a Medicaid waiver or Medicaid waiver services. However, it is a reason up until 18 for a child to be denied SSI. Once they're 18, again, parents' assets and income no longer a factor. However, if the child has too much money, they can be denied eligibility. So the asset limit of 2,000 on the previous screen applies to SSI, it applies to Medicaid in the state of Indiana, and by extension, Medicaid waiver services. So pretty much anything in their name, the total of all that needs to stay under the $2,000. Now, for SSI, This is a little insight as to what Social Security does with the numbers and the benefits. So when it comes to SSI, once they're eligible or drawing the benefit, the first $20 of monthly income of any type and the first $65 of earned income is not counted. After that first $85 that's overlooked, there is a $1 reduction on SSI each month for each $2 earned. And we will go through some examples here in a few minutes because there's nothing like an example to see truly how this works. So unless the child is still in school, and that's because there is an exclusion. So good news, and most of you, I'm guessing, or a good number of you, have children that are school age by your awareness of in-source. So the good news is, as you can see with the third bullet point, that if they are under the age of 22 and they are still in school, whether it's the regular secondary education or it's the extension program, but if they're still reporting to the high school up until age 22, then they have an exclusion on earnings as it relates to SSI. And this is really powerful. Very few people are aware of it. Social Security is not talking about it. And as a result, sometimes students have their benefits cut as a result of a part-time job unnecessarily. And the exclusion is actually quite generous. So as you can see, currently for 2025, and I went through the entire presentation this afternoon to make sure all updates for 2025 have been made. So I believe we are up to date on everything that you're going to see this evening. These changes or updates do not come out until toward the end of the year. And as often as I give workshops, sometimes it takes me a few weeks to get all the updates made, but I believe we are 100% for you. So the exclusion is $2,350 a month, which is very rare, but $9,460 for the year. So if they're working with a part-time job, and that job extends as an example throughout the school year, then $9,460 would break down to a little less than $800 per month. So again, it's quite generous. And they could literally be working part-time, either for the school, maybe in the cafeteria or custodial or something, or at the neighborhood Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or something. But if they have a part-time job, then at almost $800 per month, that would break down to about $200 a week, or at a wage of $12 or $14 an hour, they could still work, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a week, and it simply would not affect their SSI. So assuming they applied for the benefit and received it starting at age 18, I mean, literally, they could be drawing as much as close to $1,000 a month tax-free, both federal and state in SSI. And on top of that, earning close to $800 per month and keep it all. You're right. Almost $1,000 in SSI and close to $800 a month in earned income. Now, you do the math, of course, and you're thinking, yeah, that's $1,600. They have to stay under $2,000. So how does that work? And the answer is once they're working, you can have them start paying their own expenses. And in addition to that, as we will talk about a week from tonight, there are ABLE accounts, which are actually not subject to the $2,000 limit. And you can set up an ABLE account for them. And if they have an extra $500 a month, you can sock it away in an ABLE account. And that ABLE account can grow to $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. And the next time they need something, you can turn to the ABLE account to pay for it. Going to Disney World, going to camp, horseback riding, a bicycle, if they are driving, the purchase of an automobile, the list just goes on and on. And so, believe me, we have options as to what we can do with the money in order to keep them under the $2,000 so that we keep the government doing as much heavy lifting as possible. So far we've talked about SSI, oftentimes a benefit they apply for at age 18, but it can be birth to grave if the family has some financial challenges and the child, because of their special needs and the family finances, is eligible for SSI prior to the age of 18. Otherwise, at age 18, and if they're still in school from 18 till 22, they've got 4 years to use the student earned income exclusion, where they can receive their SSI benefit and their part-time wages, have both have their cake and eat it too. So as a result of this, I'm hoping that you see employment is not the enemy, meaning employment does not spell a loss of Medicaid. Employment does not mean a loss of Medicaid waiver services. Employment does not mean a loss of Social Security. Now, granted, full-time employment with benefits is a little more complicated. But then if they're working full-time with health insurance or benefits, perhaps the government benefits become less important as they may have health insurance at work, etc. However, I will mention that it is possible in many cases for your child with special needs to work full-time. I did say full-time while still retaining their Medicaid waiver and their disability Medicaid. So there are higher income limits that are allowed and programs available to support our special needs population that are attempting to make a go in the workplace. And Indiana is rich with programs, most of which we will talk about this evening. And so again, employment is not the enemy. As they transition out of high school, I would encourage you to work with Voc Rehab. We did, and look at employment opportunities, or if applicable to their situation, they can continue their education. And there are more special needs programs in our Indiana universities than ever before. It's really exciting. Examples are in Indianapolis, there's the University of Indianapolis. Again, it's referred to as UIndy by short, typically, University of Indianapolis, UIndy. And they have a program called the BUILD program. And it's a program that it's a concierge level of service for students with special needs or disability. And that's an example of where they're going to provide expert attention to a child with special needs to see that every opportunity is given to help them get through their post-secondary education experience. Another example is Marian University, originally a Catholic university in Indianapolis, and they have actually 2 special needs programs. And again, these universities are stepping up and providing programs to help our students that want to continue education beyond high school to help make it possible. Most all universities and colleges have special needs programs. It's just that some universities go above and beyond, in terms of the level of service and attention that they give to the children. So there are a lot of opportunities that did not exist 25 plus years ago as I embarked upon my practice in special needs. It's very exciting. Next up is child support. And we, of course, have blended families, marriage, divorce, and a variety of circumstances in the special needs community. If child support is being paid, then if there is SSI before the age of 18, it has a limited effect. However, starting at the age of 18, child support is treated typically as unearned income, which is a dollar for dollar reduction, not a $1 for $2 earned reduction. So as a result of that, when child support is paid post age 18, meaning you have a child with special needs, they're 18, they're 19, they're 20, and child support continues to be paid, and or you're going to court to get an extension on the child support because of their disability, please be aware that there is a ripple effect on the SSI benefit. There is a remedy in some situations. You see noted at the bottom of the page, court-ordered payments to a first-party special needs trust. And so in some situations, we can go to court, we can get a child support order, and the child support payments are made directly to a special type of special needs trust. And in those circumstances, typically, the full SSI benefit is retained. And that can be significant. If child support, as an example, is $200 a week, $800 a month, $10,000 on the year, then it's possible for a full measure of SSI to be paid on behalf of the child with special needs, in addition to child support coming from a biological parent. Okay. All right. Let's see if we got any questions. Nothing yet. Okay. All right. Supplemental security income summarized. So a consumer must be 18 or over if a parent's assets and income are not to be a factor in eligibility. Monthly contributions toward food and shelter, less food, unfortunately. There's a statement of household expenses and contributions. The 10 categories are now 9. And you must keep the consumer, the child with special needs, countable resources under the $2,000 figure. As far as earned income total, there's something called SGA, which is substantial gainful activity. My apologies for it not being spelled out. I'll have to correct that, but SGA stands for substantial gainful activity. That's the income threshold that if one steps beyond, Social Security ceases to consider them disabled. If blind, the limit is much higher, 2,700. And then in Indiana, we have something called a trial work period, where there is a ongoing monthly income limit of $1,160. The point being that Indiana is one of the more favorable states for our young people with special needs to be getting a job and experiencing part-time employment. We talked about the student earned income exclusion and child support. Apply prior to age 22 if possible. With special needs, almost everything is fixable. What I mean by that is when it comes to legal, financial, government benefit issues, almost everything is fixable. So if there's a mistake, if something's not right, usually it can be corrected. When it comes to SSI, there is a decided advantage to applying for the SSI benefit prior to the age of 22. So if you have a child with special needs and the crystal ball is not giving you all the answers, and so there's a temptation to say, we'll just keep trying different jobs and different situations to see if we can find one that fits or works well. And you blink and your child is 25. And they may or may not have a job. They may have been through a series of jobs. They may have had a meaningful period of unemployment. They may be spending time on their phone or on the computer, playing computer games, this type of thing. And it typically does not work terribly well to their advantage because it's not good for socialization, which is kind of an irony that they're maybe socially well connected through the computer, but it's not good for their social lives. It's not good for their physical health because it can breed inactivity, and therefore, by extension, it's not good for their mental health. And so my suggestion is to consider seeking support and help for your child with special needs in the form of Medicaid waivers, SSI, almost kind of like the iconic scene in Forrest Gump, where he's got the braces on his legs and he's down on the ground and he manages to get up, slowly starts walking, swinging his legs one at a time forward, then walks a little faster, then starts to gallop, and before you know it, the braces fall off. So what a wonderful picture it would be if the benefits and supports that we work to put in place are eventually not needed or fall off, like the braces in the case of Forrest Gump. But would he have ever run if not for having those braces on? And so the old adage is to get supports and benefits in place and then outgrow them or seek to build a situation where perhaps they're no longer needed. But it's usually a better strategy to pursue them, have them in place, let them help you as they can, and then let them drop off if they're not needed, versus to wait until all has failed and then to seek help. So just sharing after working with thousands of families and something certainly to consider. Now, the age 22 is actually kind of magical when it comes to SSI. And the reason is because the potential exists for something we talked about right out of the gate, adult child benefits. And adult child benefits, if they fit the eligibility criteria, would give your child or dependent with special needs the potential to eventually draw off of your own Social Security work record. That's right. They actually draw off of your work record. You had in mind you would be the only one drawing off of your record, or potentially a non-working or lesser earning spouse. But it may be a surprise for you to learn that in many cases, our adult children with special needs end up drawing off of our own work record. But there are several criteria to be eligible, and the benefits that they draw are really substantial in many cases. In fact, in some cases, they can be a multiple of what is possible through SSI. I think the largest adult child benefit I've seen to date is close to $3,000. You heard me right, $3,000. That is monthly. So you're talking over $30,000 a year, or a benefit worth potentially $1 million during their lifetime. But one of the criteria is that their disability predates their 22nd birthday. So especially in cases where it's not genetic and is not traceable back to birth, then to postpone drawing SSI until they're 25 or 26, or until perhaps all other avenues have failed, is not necessarily a good strategy, because then Social Security is looking them over at 25 or 26, et cetera, not prior to their 22nd birthday. And it can make it very challenging for them down the road to draw off of your benefit by way of the adult child benefit. Now, at the same time, this has an impact on when you decide to retire. And that's a wake-up call for many of us. You heard it right. Actually, your child with special needs and their situation can have an impact on when you decide to retire. Because when you decide to retire can have a significant impact upon whether they draw and how much they draw in the way of an adult child benefit. And then to complicate things further, it also can affect a spouse, and whether the spouse, the lesser earning spouse, draws off of themselves or draws off of the primary breadwinner or largest income owner. So we coach families every day on the lead up to age 18 with regards to how to prepare to apply for SSI. And believe it or not, the preparation for SSI ideally starts a year ahead, meaning we start families to prepare when the child turns 17. So it is a wonderful thing to get a leg up on this and start the preparation for the application with SSI once they turn 18 versus waiting until you're right upon age 18. If you have a child turning age 18 in a week or two, or they turned 18 last month, all is not lost, the ship is not sailed. We can certainly be helpful. But I just say this to encourage parents to get ahead of this and start the process once they turn age 17. Now, next week, we will be talking about guardianship. And that's also a major event that surrounds that 18th birthday. Typically, the two biggest things that surround turning 18 are SSI, the application for the SSI benefit, and guardianship or alternatives. So, yeah, it's not too early. On the other hand, if they've turned 18, the ship is not sailed, but there's still the opportunity to do much good. Okay, gonna move forward. Let me double check. Okay, no questions. Okay. All right, I promised examples, and here we go. Give me 1 second. Okay, David, age 18, gets a job at $12 an hour. And isn't it amazing how the wages for our kids with special needs have grown? 29 years ago, we were lucky if it was minimum wage. Now we're seeing 12, 14, even $16 an hour at fast food, at Goodwill, at school. We're seeing all kinds of opportunities with really meaningful wages where they feel valued and are growing as a result of the opportunity. So I'm just so encouraged. So he's a student and he works weekends with a total of 8 hours a week. So maybe he does 4 hours on Saturday and 4 hours on Sunday. He's paid weekly, therefore he's earning $96 a week, simply 12 times 8. In a 4-week month, total compensation would be $384, 96 per week times 4 weeks. All right, so David has SSI. Due to the student earned income exclusion, he's still a student. David's SSI benefit is not affected. So he can receive $967 per month, tax-free federal and state in SSI, in addition to the almost $400 per month that he's receiving as a result of his part-time job. Now, is that exciting or what? Wow. Talking about bringing home the bacon. That's just amazing. He's only 18 and already bringing in over $1,000 a month. Susan, on the other hand, is 21, no longer a student. She has a part-time job working 18 hours a week, earning $13 an hour. She's paid biweekly, earning $488 every 2 weeks. In a 3-paycheck month, she earns $1,464. So you might say, wow, $1,464, my goodness, in a single month. Well, she's going to lose all of her benefits. Well, isn't it amazing? Because the SGI limit is all, SGA, excuse me, which is substantial gainful activity for 2025 is up to $1,620. So she is comfortably under what Social Security will allow her to earn without losing her Social Security benefit. But they do a calculation monthly. And so we're showing the first 85 is forgiven. That's the 65 and 20. And that will not affect her after that. The remaining $1,379 will be reduced $1 for each $2 earned. So her net SSI benefit amount is $277.50. But that's pretty amazing. She earned almost $1,500 in a month and still received almost $300 in SSI benefits. So really cool. And it shows how, yes, employment will reduce an SSI benefit, but if she were just plain unemployed, the maximum SSI benefit would only be $967. So instead of $967, because she's working, she's bringing in a total of almost $1,800. Double. It's almost double what she would receive with SSI only. So there is a huge incentive to work. Huge incentive to work. Work is not the enemy. It's incredibly helpful. Not only that, as you will see in a few minutes, at $1,464 in gross monthly wages, she's actually building a Social Security record of her own. What I mean is she's paying FICA taxes. And those FICA taxes are racking up quarters of credit in the Social Security system. And so what you may find surprising is, shoot, just a couple of years from now, Susan could be eligible to draw Social Security disability off of who? Herself. You might say, oh, no way. She's not even working 20 hours a week. Who's kidding who? It takes 10 years to be permanently and fully insured for Social Security disability, and she certainly isn't going to do it working 18 hours a week. And my response is, I beg to differ. At a young age like 21, it only takes as little as 6 quarters. That's a year and a half of Social Security credit to be Social Security disability eligible. And what do you have to do to get a quarter? About $800 a month in earnings. So at 800 a month in earnings, and she's at $1,464. So she's on her way to being eligible for Social Security disability. What does that mean? That means in addition to possibly SSI, she could draw Social Security disability. Her total Social Security benefits could increase. In addition to that, she could become Medicare eligible, as we were discussing before. And it takes 2 years of being on Social Security disability to be Medicare eligible. So if she went on Social Security disability at 23, oh, and by the way, she goes on Social Security disability, but she continues to work. Please don't misunderstand. Drawing Social Security disability benefits, going off on disability, doesn't mean she goes off anywhere. She's still at work every day, working like she always has. So she can continue to earn her $1,500, draw Social Security disability. She could have her Medicaid waiver services, and Medicare on top of it. It's incredible. You start putting a pencil to these benefits, they are worth tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that's why we're talking about them. And it doesn't hold them back. She's employed, she's earning money. The combination of what she is able to do through her own efforts, plus what the government benefits will provide, help to come together to craft a financial picture that helps her keep her head above water. So if she's living at home, she's paying her fair share of household expenses. If she's in an apartment, she may qualify for subsidized rent, Section 8, that type of thing. But even if she's not, she could probably afford to pay $800 or $1,000 a month if her combined income was approaching $2,000 per month. So I get really excited as I work with these numbers because the possibilities are more positive than ever. Okay, we have one more example as we continue to move on. Again, I invite you to ask any questions. Jerry receives $400 of SSDI. Jerry is employed at $11 an hour and works 24 hours a week. He is paid biweekly. Gross is $528 every 2 weeks, and that's just simply 11 times 24 per week. And so 2 weeks worth is $528. In a 3-paycheck month, his gross wages are $1,584. Jerry is very close to a problem. He is close to exceeding the SGA limit of $1,620. So you got to be careful with these limits. There are only 3 or 4 numbers that you have to watch. While it's a little complicated, if you know what the numbers are each year, and basically it's $2,000 resource limit, earned income at $1,620, and then you've got the student earned income exclusion if your child's a student, that type of thing. So again, only 3 or 4 income figures. Now, if they want to start working full time and give up their Social Security benefit, which they can, that means they're exceeding the 1620. They're exceeding the 1620, or if blind, 2700. And at that point, they will lose their Social Security, their SSI, or their Social Security disability benefit. But if they're working full time, that may be okay with them, like braces falling off of Forrest Gump. But you may be surprised to learn that they can exceed the 1620, lose their Social Security, still retain, I did say retain, their disability Medicaid and their Medicaid waiver services. Most people are shocked to learn that your child with special needs could actually work full time, earning over $30,000 a year, or for that matter, $40,000 a year, and still retain their disability Medicaid for healthcare, as well as their Medicaid waiver services, such as the family supports waiver, the health and wellness waiver, etc. Now, they will lose Social Security in the process, but again, if they're earning beyond that, they don't need Social Security, so be it. But there are avenues by which the Medicaid waiver and disability Medicaid can be maintained because those benefits and services are often extremely helpful. And they may not have health insurance through work, or may not always have health insurance at work, and they want that underlay of disability Medicaid for their health care. And perhaps they have a behavioralist or a rec therapist or someone they work with through their family supports Medicaid waiver, and they just don't want to give up the waiver because it helps them keep the state of mind and keep kind of help them keep themselves together so that they can maintain their employment. So again, it's possible to have all the benefits, SSI, SSDI, Medicare, Medicaid, Medicaid waiver, etc. And then as their income rises above, we can start, in essence, dismantling some of the government benefits selectively based on what they need, what they don't need, and the amount of success they're having with employment. Okay, so we're close to the end on Social Security. So if anyone's going to ask a question about SSI, SSDI, etc., soon would be a good time before we move on to other topics. And we're doing great on time. We're just kind of halfway there. SSDI, by the way, can replace SSI or be in addition to SSI, depending upon the SSI benefit amount. Now, SSDI, Social Security Disability Income or Insurance, is as a result of someone paying into the system. If they paid into the system themselves, they can draw off of their own Social Security record. But in many cases, they want to draw off of a parent's record. How do they draw off of a parent's record? they draw off of a parent's record because a parent has a triggering event. There are three triggering events that can cause a child with special needs to draw off of a parent's record. Now, would someone be willing to unmute themselves, anybody, and weigh in on what they think any of those three triggering events, since we're all parents, I'm thinking here this evening. Anyone want to weigh in on what any of those three triggering events would be on a parent's part that might cause a child to draw off of the parent's Social Security record? Help me out. Anybody? Anybody? I'm thinking you can unmute. Oh, okay, we got somebody in chat. Okay. All right. So thank you so much. And the name is familiar. Oh, God love you all. Appreciate you all so much. So yes, so one was entered death, and that's absolutely correct. When a parent passes away, it triggers survivor benefits. Well, for a child without a disability, those survivor benefits only last until they're 18, 19 if still in school. Interestingly enough, if a child has special needs, they could at any point in their life potentially be eligible to draw a survivor benefit from a deceased parent's Social Security record. So that's one. Anybody want? Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Jessica. So next is, what if a parent becomes disabled? Absolutely. Death and disability are two of the least favored triggering events on parents' part. And in fact, the third one is what parents frequently choose if they have an option. It's the R word, and that is parents may someday hope that they can reach a point where they may be able to, hopefully somebody, yes. Okay. All right. You all are too fun. I'm so thankful for you. Yes, retire. So it's drawing retirement benefits from Social Security, a disability, or a death. My experience is parents prefer to prefer to choose the retirement option, and as opposed to disability or death. Much more pleasant. And I'll know it someday, though it's many years down the road, because I love my work and I'm so thankful for the opportunity to serve. But thanks, everybody. Just makes me feel very much a part of a team here this evening versus alone. So thank you for that. All right, so what happens when a parent does that? Well, if you call Social Security and you're 62 or older, because you can draw Social Security retirement benefits starting at age 62 or as late as age 70 for the start. No need to wait beyond 70. It doesn't increase anymore. I think if Social Security gets smart, they'll bump the 62 to 65, and they'll bump the 70 off to 75 and try to push this, push this thing a little bit down the road because they're bleeding at the seams. But nevertheless, for now, 62 to 70. So whenever you call in Social Security during that 8-year period to say, turn it on, I want to start drawing Social Security retirement, they should be asking you, do you have a child with special needs or a disability? Do they always ask? No. So it seems like, I don't know, 2, 3 times a year, not all the time, but 2 or 3 times a year, I'll bump into a family where they have an adult child who has a disability. They're still on SSI. They should have been drawing off of the parents' record years ago, and it never happened. Unfortunately, Social Security does not go back. So whenever it is down the road, be it 10 years or 20 years for you, when you decide to retire, then, okay, I appreciate the comments. I'm a fan of you all too. So when you do retire, do not count on Social Security to raise the question. I'm always trying to create awareness on parents' part, so when they make that call, they can say, oh, time out. I have Johnny, I have Susie, I've got Billy with special needs, and I understand that they can draw off of my Social Security record. Now, so that's one example. What is it they have to do to draw? Basically, to have remained single in most cases. Getting married complicates it. To have worked part-time, but not full-time along the way. For Social Security to agree that their disability predates their 22nd birthday, as we discussed before. So those are some of the examples of what it takes for Social Security to join the party, that type of thing. And then depending upon the situation, they can draw off of the parent's record. And it's a little too complicated to go into examples on that. But I love to counsel or coach parents on when to retire because of the implications on spouse and children. If you have a child, if you have a spouse who has not earned as much, and I'll tell you, in the last 5 years, we're seeing an increasing number of family situations where both parents are working full time. God love them. In the past, it was not uncommon for one of the parents to work part time or work a little less because of the demands of special needs. We're seeing again two full-time career parents anymore. I guess it was kind of an eventual thing that would occur. But nevertheless, we have a number of people that are in retirement age that are from the generation where one of the spouses may have not earned as much as the other in order to maintain the flexibility, closer to home, child with special needs, etc. And as a result of that, they're thinking, my benefit isn't going to be worth much. So I'll just draw off of my husband, or I will just draw off of my wife, because it can go both ways. And in the absence of a child with special needs, it's usually a slam dunk. Boy, when you put the child with special needs into the mix, it changes everything. So sometimes the spouse that just always figured they would draw off of their spouse, their husband or their wife, because their record has got to be so much bigger than theirs. It doesn't always, the numbers do not always work to do that because of the impact that the child with special needs has by drawing off of that parent's benefit as well. It's something we call the family maximum, and it tends to limit what the adult child with special needs combined with the spouse can draw off of that one wage earner. And that limitation is what sometimes makes the benefit, that lower benefit for the spouse who did not work as much, to look much more attractive than they thought it would. Okay. The survivor benefit, by the way, survivor benefit can be as much as 75%. So if you do have a worker retired drawing $4,000 a month off of their own record, that's where we get to the $3,000 a month that I mentioned earlier as a potential survivor benefit. How long does that last? For the life of the child with special needs. So if they live on for 30 years beyond the death of that parent, then we are talking $1 million without even cost of living increases. So these benefits are rich. I gotta tell you, they are nothing but rich. And knowing about these benefits and how to work with them is critically important. So realizing this over the years, working with families that have gotten older, meaning that kids are going through those early employment years and guardianship and applying for SSI, and the parents are thinking retirement, drawing retirement, passing away. Over 30 years, I've kind of seen the whole timeline and all the events that occur. And that's what has put me in a unique position to be helpful to families, because from birth, when I have a family calling me from the NICU at the hospital, all the way to parents passing away, and we lose a couple of parents a year these days just because we work with thousands of families. And so I've seen the gambit in the journey step by step. And that's part of why I want to work on another 10 years or so. And that's because it's a unique body of experience and knowledge. And I'm just impassioned to put it to work for our special needs families here. The 24-month for Medicare eligibility I mentioned. So if your child can potentially become eligible for Medicare, and by the way, becoming eligible for Medicare does not mean they lose Medicaid. You can have both. And in fact, the government has a system in place called the QMB, where if their wages are not too high, they can be considered a qualified Medicare beneficiary, and they get Medicare free, not just Part A, but Part B as well. So unlike we parents reaching 65 that will need to pay for Part B and possibly Part D or have Medicare Part C, they will get their Medicare free. So the Medicaid is free for them, the Medicare can be free for them, and they can have SSI, SSDI, Medicare, Medicaid, Medicaid waiver services, etc. We have a question in chat. Wonderful. I'm so thankful. Let's see here. I'm trying to pull it up. Okay. Yep, okay. Qualified Medicare beneficiary, QMB, qualified Medicare beneficiary. Typically, a child with special needs is a slam dunk, meaning they get their Medicare free unless they do have meaningful wages from employment. And there is such a thing as earning so much that they become disqualified as a qualified Medicare beneficiary. Wonderful problem to have. Means they're earning too much money to have that hand up. Okay. Um, all right, let's see here. Yep, 1810, as you can see at the bottom of the screen. So about, I mentioned $800 a month earlier. I stand corrected. It's 1810 per quarter. So that means the limit is actually just barely over $600 per month. So let's do the math. If they're getting $12 an hour, which most with special needs are getting $12 an hour, that would be 50 hours a month, which means on average, they're accumulating quarters if they're simply working 12 to 13 hours a week. So very part-time income, very part-time income is all it takes to accumulate Social Security quarters. And you might say, well, what does it matter if the SSDI simply replaces the SSI? Well, what's different is there is no reduction on SSDI for working. There is no earn $2, lose $1. So when they qualify for SSDI, they get to keep 100% of that benefit, regardless of the fact that they're employed. So there actually is a substantial incentive for qualifying for SSDI, not just the benefit that is not reduced for working, but the Medicare as well. So I bring this up. Why? Because 25 years ago, almost none of our special needs population was earning the $1,800 a quarter. You know, it was $2 an hour, $3 an hour, $5 an hour, piecework, whatever. And yeah. So, but we're seeing it now, and so are you, I'm sure, with friends or whomever. And earning 1,800 a quarter is happening. So it's an opportunity, really a great opportunity. And
Gordon,
we're about ready to move on to Medicare.
We have a question before you move on, Gordon.
Please.
What does QMB stand for?
So that stands for Qualified Medicare Beneficiary. So how do they get that? They get that by qualifying for SSDI off of their own record or that of a parent for 2 years or longer. After 2 years, they become Medicare eligible. They should get their Medicare card. If they don't, you need to call. And then you need to monitor to see if they start dinging their Social Security disability benefit when they get their Medicare card for the Part B premium of $180 or so. If they do, you're on the phone right away to Social Security saying not so fast, because again, they likely qualify as a qualified Medicare beneficiary, meaning they can benefit from it without having to pay for it. The only exception is when they have some meaningful wages. So thank you so much. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Moving on to Medicare. I want to respect your time, and we will be finished by 8 o'clock. So we're going to pick up the pace a little. It's tough to rush Social Security. I just have to tell you. Okay. Medicare covers medical needs. It's not a financially needs-based program. So once they start becoming eligible for Medicare, there is not a $2,000 resource limit for SSDI. There isn't a $2,000 resource limit for Medicare. As long as they're retaining Medicaid, though, and Medicaid waiver services, they have to stay under the $2,000. So it won't be a Social Security issue. It'll be a Medicaid issue. Okay, speaking of Medicaid, needs-based program, you got to stay under the $2,000. There is an income limit, believe it or not. You may not be aware that there is an income limit for disability Medicaid when they have a waiver. Now, let me do a quick infomercial for Medicaid waivers. If your child is not on a waiver or on a waiting list, we need to help. We need to help you get your child on a Medicaid waiver or a Medicaid waiver waiting list. And the reason is because even if your child is higher functioning, you have a much higher earned income limit to retain eligibility for Medicaid and if they have a waiver and Medicaid waiver services. So if you want the best of both worlds, where they have a job and they retain Medicaid for health care, and you don't have to worry about whether that employer is giving them health insurance or not, and whether they're coming off your group health insurance when they're 26, and you don't want the indigent Medicaid that comes with SSI, you want better. You want your child on a Medicaid waiver. So if they are not on a waiting list for a waiver or not already on a waiver, let us help you. Waivers are good. Now, if you see the chat rooms and the groups and the Facebook groups and emails flying and so forth, you'd think, oh, Medicaid waivers are awful. I'm hearing about all the bad things. It isn't the Medicaid waivers that are bad. Medicaid waivers are wonderful. It's the change in the rules. It is the backlog of applicants. And so the state has some problems. Some of them are self-imposed. We will advocate and for our families, and we will get eventually to a better place. Please be aware, though, that if you are pursuing a waiver, if we do have a parent or parents that are veterans, active duty, or a veteran in the past, they will expedite. They will also expedite in many cases if the child is between 18 and 22 and coming out of their high school experience. So there are a few exceptions that can be fast-tracked, but let us work with you. Let us help you. Again, as I mentioned when we first started, a follow-up consultation is free, as in it costs you absolutely nothing. What's powerful about the individual consultation is it's very specific to you. What we're covering this evening is a lot of information, but it's general information. In the individual consultation, again, we're able to make it specific to you and what are next steps that you need to consider, et cetera. Okay. Let me see if I'm missing any questions as we move along. Nope, we're doing great. I'm really inspired because our numbers have grown as the evening has gone on. We started with 8, we're up to 10. So super, super excited that it's getting better as the farther along that we go. Very thankful. Okay, so Medicaid is healthcare, Medicaid waiver or services. And by the way, I hear from parents, there's a 3-year wait. It's just too much. I'm going to take a pass on that. Please let us help you. I have heard from parents, my kid is busy. We don't have time for anything else between school, maybe Special Olympics, therapies and different things going on. Waiver services can be as little as 1 hour a week. Please understand, it's through the waiver you get the disability Medicaid with a much higher earned income limit. In case your child gets that job where their income is a little higher, you really want to consider a Medicaid waiver, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. We'll get to the waiver programs here momentarily. I do want to touch base quickly on something that is never spoken about. And this came up during COVID. That's why it never caught on. No one ever caught it, et cetera. And I think I got it from a listserv one day, and I'm like, whoa, what's that? But basically, Social Security came out in 2022 with something called an unsuccessful work attempt. So if your child attempts employment, exceeds the limit, which would cause Social Security to consider them not disabled, but it fits the criteria of no more than 6 months in a situation where the situation fell apart and they could no longer perform the duties, et cetera, there is the potential that Social Security basically will provide forgiveness or oversight for that period of time and not penalize them long term. So it's called unsuccessful work attempt, and we'll at least just put that out there to create an awareness. Okay. All right, let's get to the waiver programs, shall we? On the way there, I think the last slide before waiver programs is I'm frequently asked from people, what does Medicaid cover? And the answer is most all health services. Most all health services. So inpatient, outpatient, screenings, home health care, all kinds of things. So as you can see, a lengthy list of services available through Medicaid at little to no cost to the recipient of the services. Okay, waiver programs as promised. So Medicaid waiver programs, states can waive certain requirements, including the requirement that individuals live in an institutional setting to receive services. So an example there, I have a cousin whose schizophrenia required that she be hospitalized at a young age as she was a danger to herself and others. And she is now 60 and has been hospitalized since her teen years. That's how things were done many, many years ago. She doesn't know anything else. It would not work to do something different now. But obviously, we're looking for services in the home and community versus away in an institutional setting. And Medicaid waivers are a big part of that. So you might say, I'm able to pay my bills. We have a nice home. We have a reasonable quality of life. So obviously, there's no help for me. Well, the good news is that Medicaid waivers are available to children that meet the criteria, regardless of income or assets of the parents. Meaning, the parents can have a six-figure income, seven-figure net worth, nice cars, nice house, vacation on Sanibel Island in Florida, and their child can have disability Medicaid and waiver services. So, and this is from birth on, and just because they finish high school doesn't mean they get booted off the waiver. So early is better when it comes to waivers. My experience is it's easier to meet the eligibility criteria when they're more of a wandering situation versus where you're able to nail more things down. So the earlier we're able to work with you to assist you in pursuing a Medicaid waiver, the better. And there are different programs and there are different systems for managing these waivers in the state of Indiana. Now, I mentioned a higher income limit, and here we go. In bullet point number 2, you would be shocked to know that an individual with special needs on a Medicaid waiver can have a monthly, I did say monthly, income of up to $2,900 while still retaining their disability Medicaid and their waiver services. That's a pretty substantial income. But just because they're up to $2,900 does not mean that they lose their Medicaid or their waiver services. If they have that much in earned income, they will lose their SSI or Social Security. However, they can lose the Social Security piece, still retain their Medicaid for healthcare and the Medicaid waiver services that can be so very important. They are still subject to the $2,000 resource limit, and this is regardless of age. Eligibility for children is based on the child's status, not the parents. Again, parents can have assets, income, not a problem. With waiver comes disability Medicaid. It is a preferred form of Medicaid in the state of Indiana. It is a higher quality Medicaid. There are 20 forms of Medicaid in the state of Indiana. So no time for that this evening, but it is not the same. All are not created equal. It is not the same Medicaid that comes with simple SSI. Parents in some situations, and we could spend a whole evening on this topic, but parents can be employed to provide care for a child age 18 or over who may not have to pay income tax, meaning the income by the IRS has been set to be tax-free. And so the state of Indiana, we're working with the state of Indiana because they've made adjustments and changes. So COVID created the need for parents in many cases to provide care because there were not direct service providers, et cetera. And then it caused the spotlight to focus on that issue. And so the state is wrangling with it. Again, through lobbying and advocacy, hopefully we ultimately end in a decent place. MedWorks is something almost no one knows about. What's MedWorks? Well, when you climb above the 2901, and you heard me right, when earned income actually goes north of 2901 per month, the figure in the second bullet point, believe it or not, Medicaid can still be retained and Medicaid waiver services, but it has to be this special form of Medicaid called MedWorks. And we help families on that because it's the state's best kept secret. But believe it or not, you can have a child working full time, earning $3,500 a month as an example. I think currently the limit is close to $4,000 a month. And so they can be working full time, still retain their Medicaid in the form of MedWorks. They do have a premium for it that's on a sliding scale. But what's important is they would still retain their waiver services. So again, they can work full time, keep their Medicaid in case they have a period of unemployment or they lose their job. And they can also retain their waiver services. So this is really, really exciting stuff, I got to tell you. And I just enjoy so much helping families with it because there are not a lot of places to go to get these answers and to get some hand holding as to how to get through this, get this accomplished. Okay, in Indiana, what are the popular waivers? Okay, and this is current as of today. So we have family supports waivers. Those are the most popular. You need to have some amount of diminished capacity, developmental delay, this type of thing. The family supports waivers are the ones that are handled through the BEADS offices. If you've ever heard the term BEADS, Bureau of Developmental Disability Services, BDDS, and they're scattered around the state. And so we help families identify their appropriate BEADS office, help them make contact, get an application, start the approval process, getting on a waiting list for the family supports waiver where appropriate. For young people whose health issues in some ways take precedence over their developmental delay or diminished capacity, the health and wellness waiver is there. I know on my team here in my office, we have the mother of a child with mitochondrial. He is tube fed, and that makes him eligible for the health and wellness waiver. So we're talking about where there's tube feeding, breathing apparatus, non-ambulatory, seizure disorder, wound care, spina bifida, muscular dystrophy, the list goes on. So where there are meaningful health issues, health or medical type of issues, then the health and wellness waiver is available. Did not used to be a wait for that waiver. There is now. So again, we really enjoy helping families get connected so they can get on the waiting list for the health and wellness waiver as quickly as possible. The community integration or CIH waiver is something only for crisis situations and or if as a parent you're reaching an age or you have a health that prevents you from providing care. So these days, the community integration habilitation waiver is really for crisis situations, not something you can get on a waiting list for or just apply for randomly. Aged and disabled waiver for those that are much older than your child, I only list it because the health and wellness waiver used to be a part of that, but it has been spun off. So if you're under 65, then the health and wellness waiver, which would apply, of course, to your kids. TBI, traumatic brain injury waiver, there is a wait for that one. And in some cases, you can waiver up. So you may get on the health and wellness waiver or family supports waiver, and then eventually your ship comes in and you can have the TBI or traumatic brain injury waiver. There's a little known program called the Choice Program. It is grant funded. And from time to time, the states have a few slots, but it's not something for the masses. What do you get? Services in the home and community for those that qualify. You have different distributions. You've got you have the area agencies on aging for the aged and disabled, the TBI and the Choice Program. The BEADS office handles both the family support, the health and wellness, and the community integration habilitation. So we help families get connected. You don't have to worry about where these are, their phone numbers or whatever. We provide all of that. Family supports waiver can have a budget of up to $20,000 a year. It's not a ton of money, but again, it comes with disability Medicaid for healthcare. And you may say, I've got them covered under my group health insurance. That's wonderful, except that you probably have a deductible, copay, out of pocket, this type of thing. And with disability Medicaid in place, you may have no out-of-pocket expense. The wait is up to 36 months. Priority status can expedite that, as we discussed earlier. Okay. All right, we have something in chat. So it says, so you can apply for more than one waiver at a time if you believe that you qualify. The answer is you would work with the respective office on where you have the greatest chance of qualifying, put an application in there. If they're not eligible, then you can move on to the next waiver. While they are on a waiver, though, there's nothing to prevent you from being on the waiting list for a different waiver if you want to what we call waiver up. So if you feel that there's a more appropriate waiver, they can be waiting for it while they are receiving waiver services. I don't believe they can be on multiple waiting lists. I'm not 100% certain, but I believe they can only be on one waiting list at a time. So you may go for the waiver with the shortest wait, get on a waiver, get the disability Medicaid, and then get on a waiting list for the next waiver that you want to pursue. Okay, great question. Thank you so much. In Indiana, there are a couple of children's health programs. There is the CHIP program, and it's through Hoosier Healthwise. These are means tested. So these are health insurance or health care programs for families with some amount of financial challenge, but that's the CHIP program. And then also there is the special needs healthcare programs. Again, both of these are have criteria to qualify. Okay, we've got a question in chat. How do we set up an individual consultation? My child was granted the bead waiver, but we still need help since, okay, yeah. All right, thanks so much. I believe, I believe Jamie Sturkey, our parent advocate, is going to be following up with attendees with a thank you for participating. And if you will respond to her thank you email, then she will be happy to schedule a consultation for you. Absolutely. And the person that, okay, I'll have to check my email because I may have an email from someone who put something in chat. I'm doing my best to keep up. The year is off to a quick start, and I did get away with family, and of course I'm paying for it, don't we all? So we'll make sure to be in touch, Angela. Thank you so much for sharing that note. Okay. All right. So then, yeah. So we work with attorneys. I'm often asked, "Are you an attorney?" The answer is no. We have a network of attorneys throughout Indiana, and so we are able. Our network of attorneys are able to assist with everything from setting up a special needs trust, dealing with guardianship issues, appealing a declination for Social Security, a Medicaid administrative hearing, you name it. So we make referrals as appropriate. Guardianship, I did not mention it before, and so we have attorneys around the state. One in the Fort Wayne area, Lafayette area, Indianapolis area, Evansville, New Albany, and so forth. So we take a comprehensive approach in working with families so that all elements that need attention are considered, certainly. Okay. I only mention this because the chat earlier was how do we get a consultation? So I have this up in case you want to take a quick snapshot of it. That is my contact information. Feel free to shoot an email to me. And I apologize, I should have updated. We did away with the toll-free number because with cell phones, no one bothers with toll-free numbers anymore. In fact, you assume it's probably a call you don't want to receive. So at any rate, but that's got the office addresses, my email, my website, etc. And again, I believe, Jill, correct me if I'm wrong, is Jamie going to be sending thank you notes to participants?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to click stop sharing. So yes, so whenever you get the email from Jamie, Jamie Sturkey, Sterchi, and she's the parent of the young son, Brady, with mitochondrial, and she is so passionate about the work that we do. All you have to do is hit reply and say, I'd like the free consultation. You also do not have to wait to the end of the 4-week series. Feel free to respond to the first email you receive from her because we are scheduling some number of weeks out. Well, I promise to be respectful of your time, and we are coming to a conclusion just a few minutes before 8 o'clock. Any additional questions we have not covered yet? Anything that anyone wants to ask? Just a few parting comments, and then I'll yield back to Jill. Always so lovely, so helpful. I remember seeing Jill 20 plus years ago at the Governor's Council conferences and all the things that we went to together. And she's always been so encouraging. Back then, my son was much younger, and I had some challenging times, and Jill was encouraging. So thankful. The thing that I'll mention is I would love for our group to grow 1 week to the next. So if it's not too much trouble, shoot an email or post something on your Facebook group or whatever, because I would love for the group to get larger and larger as we move through the month of February. Next week is going to be guardianship, alternatives, and ABLE accounts. And by way of full disclosure, I am a governor appointed member of the ABLE board for the state of Indiana. So not that I'm important, not at all, but it simply gives me insights and puts me in a unique position to address ABLE questions and situations. With that, Jill, as promised, I yield back to you. So thankful for this evening, for everyone that participated, and really excited about next week.
And I want to thank you so much, Gordon, for being here tonight. And we had several attendees out on our Facebook Live. So not only did we have several here, but also on our Facebook Live. And for those of you that are out on our Facebook Live, I would encourage you to, just like Gordon has said, come back again next week because we have a very packed month with Gordon. And if you don't want to just attend Facebook Live, you're more than welcome to be on our Zoom platform as well. So please, I encourage you to come back. We're going to have the guardianship alternatives, and the ABLE account will be next week on February the 11th at 6:30 p.m. Then on February the 18th, we're going to have funding a special needs trust. And then we're going to wrap up on February the 25th, and that's going to be the life care plan. And so I highly encourage you to make sure that you are attending. And please, if you are in a group or on your personal Facebook pages, Instagram, whatever that may be, please, I encourage you to put the link out there as well. And if you do have some difficulty with the link, please feel free to get a hold of me. And again, my name is Jill Summerlot, and I'm jsummerlot@insource.org. And you're more than welcome to get a hold of me. At this time, I am going to give the time of 3 minutes back to everyone. And I appreciate each and every one of you being here tonight. Gordon, thank you so very much. Just a real quick note. Gordon, my son just turned 28. So we've been around for a while. So
We have no wonder we were commiserating.
and I'm telling you what, ladies and gentlemen, the days of the Governor's Planning Council, that was some very good information. So I highly encourage anybody to getting into that group as well. All right, everyone. Thank you again for being here tonight. Gordon, thank you very, very much. I want to thank my moderator that's been out on our Facebook Live. And everyone, we will see you back here next week at 6:30 p.m. And we're going to discuss the guardianship and alternatives and the ABLE accounts. Have a great night, everyone.